What's going on YouTube? It's your boy Logisticalstyles, and we are back in the analog studio, and this time we're doing it a little bit different. We are actually going to just have a conversation. We're going to chop it up, and just talk about some things. And so right here we are with Art Appreciation. This is the purveyor of this studio right here, making it all possible. And we're just going to talk about some stuff. There's a lot going on in the industry. There's a lot going on with my channel. Y'all probably saw the last video that I put up where I showed the issue I was having with the Range 12 spinning really fast, and I was just trying to give him a lowdown on, you know, the history of it. You guys on the channel, y'all have seen me complain and, you know, go through my growing pains with this Range 12, the Range 70, and it got me thinking about something, and it got me thinking about, am I too loyal to Rane as a company based off of their history? And you know, it's not the same as it used to be. And as I start thinking about this gear that I use, you know, I've had 3 Rane 12s personally in my possession, and each one of them have done the super spin, the helicopter mode type thing.
All 3 of them?
All 3 of them. The first time they had me send one out for a repair, they said it ended up being a motor that had to be replaced. At one point, Rane was telling people it was a firmware update that could only be applied at the factory or at the office. So they had to have you ship out your Rane 12 for them to do the firmware. But by the time I had the issue, the invoice I got back said it was just a replacement of the motor. And I just rode with it, and it wasn't that big of an issue because it didn't always happen. I could go months and it not happen. And it never actually happened while I was playing a song on that particular deck. So I'm not sure if I've just been fortunate or it's just the way this malfunction works, but I stuck with them. And then I eventually got another Rane 12 after a year of working with the one that they replaced and sent me.
When did you get the first one?
First one was, it had to be, I guess, 2018.
Okay.
2018, no, 2019.
Because that's when they first came on the scene too, right?
Yeah. I got mine like maybe 6 months after they came out.
Okay.
And it's funny because when they did come out and they announced them, I was like a naysayer. I was like, nobody's going to use those. Because they were pushing them as battle ready. It was battle equipment, and it came out during like the beginning of battle season for DMC. And just me knowing how the DMC operates, I was concerned that they wouldn't have a set of Rane 12s at all the regional battles. And I was like, it just doesn't make sense. It's a deck with no tone arm. You can't play records on it.
All right.
Like, why would anybody want this? And then here I am a few years later with a pair of them. And I mean, I like them. When they work well, they are great. But it's just that random fast spinning thing, or sometimes a light might not light up, and I'm like, why is this not doing this? And you have to reach underneath the deck because that's where they put the power.
Yep.
So you have to lift that deck up and then hit the power, restart it, problem solved. But it's not something I really want to do at a gig.
Right. So do you like having the full size, you know, a 12-inch?
Yes.
As opposed to the smaller joints?
That was my biggest thing. I used to have, I've always had my 1200s, my Technique 1200s. I've always played with those. Okay. But I eventually had to get a controller, one of those all-in-one controllers. Yeah. Because when you're gigging a lot and you're doing like bars and restaurants and even the mobile stuff, sometimes you just got to get in and get out. And that all-in-one controller is real handy for that. It gets you in, gets you out.
Serves the purpose, right?
Yeah, and you got it all tucked under your arm and you're walking out. You know, when I got my Rane 12s, the coffin that I use them in now, it has room for one deck and the mixer. And that allows me to use instant doubles, so I don't have to bring 2 decks with me, but it's still heavy. It's got some weight to it.
So with the 12, that's Rane's first foray pretty much into the turntable stuff?
Yes, Rane has never made a turntable at all, you know, even with a needle attached. So this is their first venture into it. And technically now they're on their third incarnation of it, because the first one had the controls, the power switches on the back. Then they moved that to the bottom, and then they came out with the MK2, which had the little screen on it and a little instant doubles button, a couple of nice add-ons. But
Okay.
had I had a pair of the first version and they were working fine, I wouldn't have upgraded to the MK2.
Okay.
It was just a small upgrade. But that's what I think a lot of companies are doing. I think they come up with a great idea for a product, but they sit back and they're like, no, we can't do it all at once.
Exactly. Oh, they're
You know,
gonna keep
cut
you
off some
buying
of
now.
these features, and
Whoa.
then we'll add a new version every other year or every 2 years or so.
Yep.
And they know people will buy it. Like you said, people are buying, and sometimes that's me. I try not to be a gear whore, but
Oh man, you get it
it's
in like
hard.
that, and see, I'm just the opposite. I'm one of those cats. Hell, if I could have an iPhone 2, I still would.
Really?
You know what I'm saying? Instead of the changes, I just want to do the basics with the stuff. Or if it serves the purpose, man, because it's sometimes you may have some equipment and it no longer has the features that you had before, or
Yeah.
they thought they were making some kind of upgrade and they really went backwards on some stuff, you know?
Right. Yeah, it's funny how the companies will do that. They'll give you a feature or maybe even take a feature away. Sometimes they
Yeah.
say it's due to lack of use. People weren't really using this feature, so we removed it.
Uh-huh.
I don't always buy that, but you know, and they really don't have a great way of figuring that out. Sometimes they'll do a survey. You know, you'll get these little surveys every once in a while, and they'll ask you, you know, how they prefer things to work, or how you use your equipment, and they sometimes make that change. But sometimes I think it's all marketing. It's all about the marketing.
Yeah, man. Just anything to get you, anything just to get you purchasing. You know, anything to get you buying. So it's just crazy, man.
Yeah. So, but I'm just been thinking, like, am I just being too loyal to Rain? I mean, Rain was always the holy grail when it came to equipment for a while. Like when that first Rain mixer with Serato built-in came out, the TTM 57 SL, when that came out, I thought it was completely ridiculous to spend, what was it, like $1,500, $1,200 on a mixer. To me, in my mind, as an old man, I'm thinking, yeah, that's a used car. You know what I'm saying? And so
What year we talking about? The first.
this had to be probably, I want to say like 2008, 2009,
Okay.
right
Okay.
around that time. And back then, your only option was to use one of the SL boxes, the Scratch Live boxes,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
hook it up to your regular mixer.
Okay.
But then they introduced the mixer with the Serato interface built into it, and it was like, oh man, I want it, but it's so expensive. I really don't. I can't justify it.
And how much was it going for at that time?
I think it's between $1,200 and $1,500 for the mixer. And the truth is, I really could have afforded it at the time because I was doing underground.
Okay.
I was over there,
Uh-huh.
and I was working there a lot. You know, I actually quit my full-time job to go
Oh
do
wow.
that.
Okay.
But I just didn't really see the whole big picture of how Serato was taking over the DJ world. You know, at this point, I just got my SL box, and
Okay.
I was kind of going back and forth between vinyl, CDs, and Serato. So at one point, my rig to go to the bar, I was bringing 2 decks, a mixer that was the Behringer that was kind of that
The
wide.
4400?
Yeah, I had that.
Okay,
I had
me
a
too,
couple
me
of
too.
little CDJs, the Denon CD players. I had all kinds of stuff and a couple of crates of records
All right.
just to DJ at a bar. You
Dig
know?
it. Dig it. Okay.
And then
I like
as
that
got
Behringer
more-
though, bro.
Yeah, it was very handy. It was actually gifted to me from
Okay.
another DJ, and definitely earned its money. But after a while, I started getting more trust and confidence in Serato and the SL box. So I started leaving the vinyl at home, still using my turntables, but just control vinyl at this point. And it worked out. I only had a problem with that SL box maybe a year after the warranty went out.
Really?
It died on me. I had to send it back to Rame, and they said it was the invoice said it was an IC chip. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but it was a chip on the board that went bad that had to be replaced. So it cost me about, in total with shipping and all that, it probably cost me about $125 for Rame to fix it. They fixed it, never had a problem with it again until I sold it. And that was the first piece of Rame equipment that I purchased, brand new.
Okay.
At this point, I also owned a secondhand Rame EQ, equalizer. Old, like 32 band equalizer, really nice joint. But I didn't really...
The Rame had?
Yeah, Rame had a really nice
Really?
EQ. Yeah, it came out of a club.
Okay.
It came out of a club. And I ended up selling that just because to me it was just extra gear, extra equipment. I had multiple EQs at the point.
Okay.
So I sold it. I went to Guitar Center and sold it. And that was like the worst place to sell equipment. I'm sorry, no hate on Guitar Center, but they do not give you a really good value. You might get a little bit more money if you get an in-store credit, but if you're trying to walk out with cash for some of your equipment, you're not gonna get the best deal. So what I ended up doing after the SL box died, or after I sold the SL box, I started looking into other equipment. They started putting the Serato interface into other gear, like the Akai AMX, a really small, it's not even a full-blown mixer because it requires the computer to be connected for it to work. But you can connect turntables to it, and it will open up Serato when you use it.
And again, what year are we talking about when you started seeing these?
This had to be around 2013, maybe. 12, 13, that's when you started seeing some more mixers that had Serato built into it. They were still getting expensive, but the Akai AMX was just affordable. That cost like $250 at the time, $250. And all I had to do was hook my turntables up to it. It opened up Serato, and I was good to go. But it was a really skinny mixer. It's probably that big, and it had a little inner fader in it, so the fader was pretty decent. But I rocked that for like years. I probably went 3-4 years using that.
Really? But you would say really the last 10 years is when Serato has really come onto the scene strong.
Yeah, that's when they started really.
So they were creeping before that.
Initially Serato and Rame. Serato was the software, Rame was the hardware. Then as controllers started coming out, when Serato came up with Itch. First it was Scratch Live for the turntables. Then there was Itch, which was for the controllers. And back then, Newmark was kind of ahead of its time when they came out with the NS7, which was a big controller, but it had motorized platters. The only downfall was super heavy. It was way too heavy, especially when you put it in a coffin. I rocked with that for about a good summer. And then I couldn't do it anymore. It was too heavy for me to carry. So I went back to turntables. I went back to what I knew. And all along, while this is happening, Serato is getting into bed with Newmark and Pioneer. And that was once they started coming out with the Pioneer controllers that were designed for Serato, that's when things really started taking off, in my opinion, because that's when you started getting a lot more buttons. Because when we're using our SL boxes, we were limited to what was on the mixer. And very few mixers had any MIDI control or anything like that. It was just... Oh, really? Yeah.
Except for the Behringers we had,
the Behringers had that. Vestax, they had a version of the 05 that had the little pads on it. They were really small pads. And then people started realizing that cue points and pads were important. So we started seeing the Dicers.
Oh, bruh.
When the Dicers came out, I remember, there was like a post on the Serato forum, what is Novation up to? Because they were teasing that a new product was coming out. And then finally you saw the Dicers. And people loved those things. but I never got into them for some reason. But people love them.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
instant access to your cue points
Yes.
and being able to jump through.
Yeah, man.
That was a game changer right there. And then they started just incorporating it into the mixer. You started getting bigger pads, and more cue points. It went from just 5
to
8. And
Yeah.
that was like, man, I didn't realize I needed 8 cue points.
Yeah.
But it was worth it. It was definitely something we needed. And then
Yeah, I wish they would do more, man, because I can, on Record Box, you can use 16.
really,
But on the Serato, it's only, I guess, programmed for only 8 on there.
yeah.
Man.
people, I used to get intimidated by this equipment with all these buttons and
Okay.
lights.
Okay. Good.
It's like a
So I
Star
don't feel
Trek.
bad then.
Yeah, I felt like I was, piloting the Enterprise. It had all these buttons. I remember I went to a club where they had a 68, the Rain 68.
Okay.
That's the 4-channel mixer.
Okay.
And it had, I'd never seen so many lights on a mixer at once, but I had to figure it out because that was my gig that I was doing. And I ended up playing there pretty frequently, so I had to learn that mixer. And then as I started learning it and seeing the workflow, I'm like, oh, it does make sense the way this stuff works. But, going back to my original thought was, back then that equipment just worked. There's 62, Rain 62s, there's Rain 57s that are still out there kicking it and doing parties, doing concerts on stage. But software and hardware manufacturers eventually have realized, I'm not even sure how recently it happened, but they now know you can't have too good of a product, because that's what happened to the Techniques. Techniques like these got to be, what year do you think these Techniques?
These are 85.
85.
Yeah, 85.
Still working.
Still work. Yo, never had any problems out of them either.
Right.
So, okay.
So
point made.
That was a downfall for Techniques.
It was.
'Cause
It was.
The gear wasn't dying.
Bruh.
And
Yeah.
you didn't have people replacing them. There were some people that just wanted to have the newest and greatest turntable, but for the most part, people were holding on to their decks. I know my decks are late 80s.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Okay. Right on. Right
Quality
on.
has gone down. I can't believe I have, over $3,000 worth of equipment between 2 decks and a mixer, and they all have a flaw.
Dang.
The mixer even has a little glitch where when I go into when I turn on my effects, the screen will start jittering and start moving and getting out of sync with itself. And the only way to fix it is to turn it off, turn it back on. Now, it doesn't affect the playback or the sound, but it's an annoyance because that's not how it's designed
It's not
to work.
how it's supposed to be.
And when I put videos up about this stuff, I get people that respond in the comments. They're like, you know what? I got the same problem.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, and I'm going to tell you, it's good to know that you got professional DJs that have these issues versus us that are just listeners. And you have these kind of problems, and this, like, you think you're the only one. Just like I think I'm the only one that has, I don't mean to hit it. I think I'm the only one that has these issues, as opposed to, it's good to know that you still have challenges with this stuff after all these years. But that's foul, too.
It is. I mean, because imagine doing a wedding. You doing your first dance, and you get an equipment malfunction, like the hyper speed thing.
Oh, wait a minute.
It has not happened to me.
Yo, but you telling me you could be playing it regular and then all of a sudden it can take off?
How it's happened for me is, like I may have the deck at rest, and when I hit that start button,
Yes.
to bring it in again, it starts speeding real fast. And it's happened to me at the club.
Oh.
It wasn't the song that was playing, but I was, at the end of the song on the other deck, and I'm planning on just mixing in, and right when I'm at my mixing point, I realized I got this malfunction, so I'm either gotta loop that song that's on the other deck, bring it back again, and people are like, wait a minute, you just started it all over again? You wait to the end of the song to start over? But
oh, wow.
Stuff like that, even if it doesn't mess up the sound, it messes your nerves up.
Absolutely.
So you don't have no confidence.
Absolutely.
For the rest of the night, or
Oh,
you
it's
gotta
a
try
challenge.
to build it back up. I'm like,
It's a challenge. Your reputation has been dented a little bit.
Right.
You know.
Yeah,
That.
and nobody wants to hear the excuse or the reason why,
So is it fair to say though that most of the ladder equipment that you've purchased, there's been some kind of glitch on?
Yes. And it's all been Rain equipment, so that's got me questioning my loyalty to Rain. I'm like, do I need to go and get that plastic Pioneer mixer?
Oh man.
Because at least it's working for the people I know that got it. They don't have them issues. I just have to baby it a little bit, keep it in my case. But I hate anomalies like that, and I hate, especially when you're doing weddings.
Oh yeah, right. Lifetime.
Well, even though
these
the
are lifetime event.
The divorce rate is like more than 50%. It's a good chance you're gonna get married again. But in the moment, it's the lifetime.
Yes.
Moment of a lifetime.
Yes.
You don't plan on getting married.
Yeah.
Again. You plan on having one wedding.
And it's expected. Everything's expected to go perfectly.
Yeah.
Man.
And when it does not, oh my God. And I'm sweating. I'm like nervous. It just throws me off my game.
Okay.
And I'm second guessing myself.
That's a good moment. That's a good thing to share right there, bro.
So in the heat of the moment, you got to deal with it. That's one thing about show business. It's a cliche. The show must go on, but it's really true. You got 100 people waiting to be entertained, and you are the entertainment.
Yeah.
You might get some bad news right before it's time to go on.
Shoot, you becoming the comedic entertainment for a hot second. Okay.
Yeah.
So for cats that's following your station, have you found that you can deal with adversity a lot easier now, or is it pretty much the same when things go wrong?
Now, as I'm experienced, I can deal with it better, and I can actually see it coming. Like I'm an example is this past Friday night, I was at Sage using the small Pioneer SB3, and something happened. It didn't sound right, and it ended up being a setting on the outboard mixer that I was using, but I could hear it coming, and maybe it's the IT person in me that is thinking about all the possible causes of this malfunction, or me just being a nervous Nelly, and I'm like, no, I don't want no craziness to happen, so I gotta, try to keep it at a minimum. So don't touch that. Just touch what's only necessary and be gentle and get through the night. And your crowd don't know that that's what's going on. So while you dealing with that, you got in your head, in your ear, can you play Drake?
Yeah.
Can you play this? Can you play that? And I'm like, I'm dealing with a crisis right now.
Yeah.
I'm just not letting it be known.